Hey, it's Louie. Really quick before we get started, this video is brought to you by my new game, Lava Run. It's a craftable board game where you help a dinosaur escape a volcanic eruption, and the best part is that the crochet dinosaur from this video is actually a playable piece in the game. Lava Run is coming as a crowdfunding project in September. You can learn more by using the link in the description or by going to lavarungame.com. Hey there, it's Louie, and in this video tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the most adorable Amigurumi T-Rex dinosaur you ever did see. Now this pattern, I am so proud of it. This is my original Amigurumi dinosaur, but I made it even better by creating a beginner-friendly version of our advanced T-Rex dinosaur. So in this video tutorial, we're not only going to be learning how to make our beginner T-Rex, but our advanced T-Rex. We're going to make both of them in this video tutorial. Now if you want to follow along with a written version of this instructions, you can find links on screen now in the description below by going to clubcrochet.com/dinosaur. From that link, you can find the downloadable PDF as well with check marks to keep track of your progress and all of our other dinosaur patterns. And you can see I've kind of got a lot of them now. I'm kind of getting maybe a little over obsessed with them, but you know, I'll let you decide that. Now, a few things to go over before we get hooking. The first is that this pattern actually is pretty beginner friendly because we did make a more beginner friendly version of it, but it's not the most beginner friendly dinosaur out there. So if you are a complete beginner, you never crocheted before in your life, maybe start with our Triceratops or our Stegosaurus pattern, or try our 101 series that you can find at crocheting101.com. It's totally free and will teach you how to crochet for complete beginners that have never crocheted before in their life. If you need extra help, make sure to comment down below. You can join the Discord channel and Facebook group. Those are great resources for complete beginners to post pictures, ask questions, or get help. You can also join our live crochet alongs. I do a live crochet along every single week where I'll crochet something from our library, and you can use that as an opportunity to ask me any questions if you get stuck on any of my patterns on my website, or just hang out and crochet with some like-minded crocheters. To join those live crochet alongs, all you need to do is like this video down below, hit subscribe, and hit the little bell icon so you don't miss it when we come out with new videos. There's a left-handed and a right-handed version of this video available, so use the one that works best for you. And there are time codes to go along with the video so that you can quickly jump around to the beginning pattern or round 5 of the advanced pattern. You get the gist. You can find links for all that in the description or at the bar at the base of this video as well. And the last thing I want to talk about is the materials that we're going to need to crochet this pattern. For this pattern, we're going to be using worsted weight yarn and 100% cotton. It's my favorite kind of yarn to use for amigurumi in general, but you don't have to use amigurumi cotton. I just find that it makes my stitches really distinct and easy to crochet with. We're going to be using our own Club Crochet amigurumi cotton. These are actually available in our kits. For our beginning pattern, we're going to be using our orange yarn, and for our advanced pattern, we're going to be using our purple yarn. We'll also need some secondary colors. For our beginning pattern, we're going to be using our teal as our secondary. In our advanced, we're going to be using yellow as our secondary. You also need a little bit of white yarn for your advanced dinosaur if you want to make this one more advanced. Because I'm using worsted weight cotton yarn, we're going to be using a size G 4mm crochet hook. It's just my favorite size hook to use with the yarn we're going to be using. But if you use larger yarn, like you want to make a blanket, use blanket yarn to make a giant T-Rex, you just want to use a larger crochet hook that works best with the yarn we're going to be using. You'll need a darning needle. I like using a crimped end darning needle like this. This is going to be a little bit more useful for our advanced pattern, but you will need it for sewing close the bottom of our beginning pattern. This one is a no-sew pattern, but you will need to sew close the bottom of it. Other than that, though, it doesn't require any sewing. You'll need some scissors for, you know, cutting stuff. These adjustable scissors here are available in our beginning dinosaur kits, by the way, if you want to get one of these. You'll need some stuffing, and of course you'll need some safety eyes. I'm going to be using 6mm safety eyes in this video. If you don't have safety eyes like this, and by the way, I'm using 6mm because of the size yarn we're going to be using, but if you use bigger yarn, you want bigger eyes. If you don't want to use safety eyes like this, you can actually use bullion knots or French knots in place of the eyes. That's how I used to do it back in the day, but now I use safety eyes because I think they look a little bit cleaner. Okay, and the last thing I want to go over is how this pattern works. Because this is a beginner-friendly pattern and an advanced pattern, there's going to be a little bit of explanation to go through. The first is that the video is going to start with our beginner dinosaur pattern. So this one's going to be much more beginner-friendly, obviously. And as we go through it, I'm going to go through the different parts and pause to explain, oh, okay, now this is where you'd want to add a lip if you wanted to do the advanced pattern. Here's where you'd want to start the belly, and then here's where you want to do the spikes, stuff like that. But after we finish up our beginning pattern, will then also make the advanced pattern in this video tutorial. So I'm going to go and make both of these and show you every single stitch for the whole pattern. So if you get stuck, hopefully this video tutorial will help. Again, comment down below if you really get stuck. I should be able to help out. If you're following along with the written version of this pattern, use the little purple boxes. That'll help you know when I'm talking about an advanced technique versus the beginning pattern. But for the most part, if you are a complete beginner, just go with the first part of this pattern to learn how to make this beginning one first, and then move on to the advanced pattern. Okay, well, without further ado, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Please consider supporting by creating a membership on our website. I'll explain more about that in the description, and make sure to like and subscribe. All right, well, let's get hooking and start with our beginning T-Rex. Okay, so for our beginner T-Rex, we're going to be using our orange yarn. You can use any color you want, though. It can be all made in the same color, and we're just going to start our whole pattern here with a slip knot. Now, if you've never made a slip knot, here is a quick tutorial, but it's actually like the first thing you usually learn. For a slip knot, you're going to take the shorter end and loop it over the long end attached to the ball of yarn. Pinch that connection point right here and fold that over the long end attached to the ball again. Now pull that long end through the loop that you just created, pinching down the tail end to hold it in place as you pull it through. This is going to create a little tiny knot that when you pull this tail end, nothing should happen, but when you pull the long end attached to the ball, it should tighten the loop up. We're going to put this onto the end of our crochet hook and tie it just tight enough so that it's just around the crochet hook. You don't need to choke the crochet hook or anything. You just need it enough so you can still slip it around like that. Okay, we're going to start this pattern by chaining 4 times to create a little chain of stitches that we're going to work into. For a chain, we want to yarn over with the ball attached to the yarn. So we're going to yarn over our crochet hook like this and then pull that through the loop made to create a chain. The easiest way to do that is to kind of grip right at the knot, right at the edge there, and then twist the crochet hook to line it up with the hole and scoop it through like that. We want to create 4 of those chains. So that's going to be 1. You can count the 1 V right there as 1. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Notice how they're all a very like symmetrical gauge, meaning that they're not looser or tighter than each other. That's going to be really important for your project. All right, so for round 1 of our Tyrannosaurus head, we're going to create basically a little tiny oval. And to do that, we're going to start by skipping our very first chain, the one closest where this loop is coming out of. That V right there is going to be our first chain. We're going to skip that one, and we're going to work into the second chain from the hook right here. We're going to do a single crochet into that chain, and then a single crochet into the chain next to it as well. So that's 1, 2 single crochets in a row. Now don't worry, I'm going to show you that stitch in just a moment. After that, we're going to do 3 single crochets into our last chain, in which we're going to flip our piece around and then work the rest of our stitches in the chains that we're already currently working in. So let's just get it started. We're going to skip that first chain on the crochet hook, and we're going to single crochet into the second one. We want to take our crochet hook and get into that stitch. So we're going to skip this one, get into this one right here. And for a beginner pattern, I just suggest you get into the top of the chain, but in our future advanced patterns, I'll show you how to get into our back loops here that are going to make it a little bit cleaner of a stitch. But for beginners, I suggest just getting to that top chain like that. After you're in the chain, we can yarn over with the end attached to the ball and pull it through the stitch by holding it close with our index and thumb and tucking and pulling it through like that. You should now have 2 loops on the hook. After that, we can yarn over with the end attached to the ball again, hold it close again, twist and scoop to get under both of those, both loops to finish up a single crochet. The majority of this pattern is going to be made with that single stitch, so you want to make that stitch over and over again. All right, so there's our first one. Our next stitch is going to be in the chain after it. You can kind of tell how this one is opened up. You can see my finger poking through right there. That means we want to work into the next one right here. So it's going to be right here. Do the same thing. Enter our crochet hook, yarn over, pull it through the stitch, and then going over, we'll yarn over again, and we're going to tuck, twist, and pull through like that to get under both loops. Okay, so that's going to be the start, 2 single crochets. Into our third chain right here, we want to do 3 single crochets, so 3 into the same exact stitch. So let's just start with our normal first single crochet right here, and just do the same thing that we just did. So that's 1 and 2 like that. Now we want to do 2 more of those single crochets into the same stitch. So we're going to follow where this V is into the same stitch with our crochet hook and do the same thing. Yarn over, pull it under that chain, then going over, yarn over, and pull through 2 like that. So there's 1 and 2 in the same chain. Now we're going to do another one into that same stitch right here, yarn over, pull it under, going over it, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now we have 3 single crochets into the same chain. You kind of see how they're all kind of clustered together there, all 3 of these ones. You can count your stitches, by the way, by counting the V's along the edge of the stitches if you would like to count your stitches. Okay, after doing those 3 single crochets, you'll notice how it will kind of instinctually turn around like this. So we're going to turn it 180 degrees so that the bottom of the chains are at the top, because that's where we're going to be working into for our next stitches. For our next stitch, we're going to work into the next chain into the same place as you made your previous single crochet. So that's going to be right here. Now again, if you looked at it from the top here, you could follow these V's to point exactly where that stitch is worked into. So this would be our first single crochet that we made. You can kind of barely see that V under this little loop here. So that'll be our first one, that'll be our second one. So for this next stitch, we want to work where that second single crochet was made. So we're going to turn it around. We're going to work right where that needle is. So get our crochet hook into where that needle is. We'll yarn over with the end attached to the ball and pull it under the loop like that. And we're going to finish that single crochet, but before we do, let's take our tail end from the very beginning, and I'm just going to place it in between the 2 loops on the hook and the end attached to the ball, and we're just going to ignore it completely and then yarn over with the end attached to the ball and finish up our single crochet like normal. This is going to work around this tail end to keep it locked into place so that we don't have to worry about it just getting in our way later on. Okay, into our last stitch, into our last chain, that's going to be the one after where this one is pointing. So if you follow where this one is, we want to go into the next one, which is going to be right here. We want to do 2 more single crochets, so 2 into that last stitch. 2 single crochets together is usually referred to as an increase, by the way. You can work around that tail end if you feel comfortable, but you also do not have to, by the way. So this is going to be the first single crochet. So there's 1. And then into the same chain, just follow where that V is, find that same chain, yarn over again, pull it through, then going over, we'll yarn over again and pull through 2. The last thing that we want to do for our oval is we want to slip stitch into the first single crochet that we made. Now it's kind of hard to tell where the first single crochet we made is, but it's going to be right here. So right after where your last stitch is, these 2 loops at the top is where you want to place your crochet hook. So just under, just like how I'm placing the needle in right there. We want to take our crochet hook, go under those 2 loops, and then do a slip stitch, which is kind of like half of a single crochet. It's actually easier than a single crochet. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go into that first stitch that we made, kind of wiggle to get our crochet hook into it. Then we'll yarn over like we normally have been, and then pull it through by tucking and twisting and pulling it through, and then pull that same loop through the loop on the hook to finish up a slip stitch like that. And that's going to be the end of round 1. The new round is going to start after our slip stitch. If you like to count your stitches, you should now have 8 stitches around. That's going to start after our slip stitch that we made. So if we count after the slip stitch right here, we'll have 1. You want to count under both of those loops for each stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 is where our crochet hook is already coming out of. And that's going to be the end of round 1. For round 2, we're going to work into the next stitch over, but before we get started there, we're going to take a little bit of yarn and just place it over our piece like this. And we're just going to hold it in place like that. This is going to act as our stitch marker to help us keep track of where the ends of the rounds are. So we're just going to hold it in place with our dominant hand as we hold our crochet hook in the same hand. We're going to skip to the next stitch over, which is going to be right here, and we're going to start round 2. For round 2, we're going to do the following repeat 2 times. The repeat is a single crochet into our first stitch, the one right after that purple yarn, and then 3 increases in a row. An increase simply just means 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So 1 single crochet in the first, and then 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 in a row. And then we're going to repeat that around again. So we'll start in this first stitch right here, and we'll do 1 single crochet. So pull a loop through, yarn over again, and pull through 2. And that's going to be our first single crochet. After that first one, I like to just kind of fold my stitch marker over so that it's not in place, and that's going to help us know where to finish our round up. So there's 1 in the first, and then we want to do 3 increases in a row. For our next stitch right here, make sure you're under both of those loops, and we're going to do 2 single crochets. So we yarn over, pull through, into the same stitch, yarn over and pull through again. Then we're going to do another single crochet into the same spot by following where that V is under where our crochet hook is to guide us right to where that stitch is, right here, and do a second single crochet into that same stitch. So it's 1, 2 in the same stitch. We want to do 3 of those increases in a row. So let's go to the next stitch over, which is going to be right here, and we're going to do another increase, meaning 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So there's 1, and then into the same stitch, it's going to be 2. Then 1 more right over here will be our last increase into the next stitch, and we're going to do 2 single crochets. So there's 1, like that, and then another one into that same exact stitch for 2. So it's 3 increases in a row. Now we're going to repeat that process one more time, which is going to be a single crochet in the first, and then 3 increases in a row. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that out. So 1 single crochet into the next stitch right here, like that, and then 3 increases, so 2 single crochets into each of the next 3 stitches. So here's the next one. It's 1, and into the same stitch will be 2, like that. All right, next stitch over right here will be 1, and then into that same stitch will be 2. And then our last one's going to be right here under both of these loops. We're going to do 2 more single crochets. So there's 1, and then into that same stitch it's going to be 2. All right, you should now have 14 stitches around. We'll pull our stitch marker up right here. I like to pull it over and up so that it's kind of out of our way, because basically where that stitch is going to be where our first single crochet is. So it's going to be right here under where that purple line is. But let's go ahead and count our stitches really quick. I'm going to count from backwards from where our loop is coming out this time. So we're going to count from right there. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 will be right here. And then 13 and 14 where this purple line is to mark the end of our round. Okay, and we'll continue on now to round 3. We're going to pull our loop up and continue on to the next round. For round 3, we're basically going to do another repeat 2 times in a row. And that repeat's going to be, we're going to start by doing a single crochet into the very first stitch. So 1 single crochet in the first, and then a repeat of 1 single crochet and then 1 increase 3 times in a row. So that's going to be, start with just 1 single crochet into the next stitch like that. And then we're going to repeat 1 single crochet, 1 increase, 1 single crochet, 1 increase, 1 single crochet, 1 increase. And again, an increase simply means just 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So we did our first single crochet, now we start our repeat. 1 single crochet, and then 1 increase. 2 in the same stitch. 1 and 2, like that. Now let's do that again. 1 single crochet, then 1 increase. 1 and 2. Then 1 more, 1 single crochet, and then 1 increase. 1, and then in the same stitch is 2. Okay, now we want to repeat that whole thing again. So we start with 1 single crochet, and then we do that 3 repeats of 1 single crochet, 1 increase in a row 3 times. So let's start with our first single crochet to get our repeat going, and then we do 1 single crochet, then 1 increase. 1 and 2 in the same stitch. 1 single crochet, 1 increase. 1 and 2 in the same stitch. One last repeat will be 1 single crochet, and then 1 more increase right here will be 1 and 2 in that same stitch. Now, if you're counting, you should have now 20 stitches around. The reason it's increased up another 6 stitches from round 2, so going from 14 to 20, is because we added 6 increases in this round, because we did that repeat 3 times over here and 3 times over here, which added 6 stitches, taking us from 14 up to 20 stitches around. Now in our next round, round 4, we're going to increase up to 22 stitches, meaning that we're only going to have 2 increases in this entire round. For round 4, we're going to single crochet 5 stitches and then do an increase over here. Then we'll do 1 single crochet after that increase and then another increase after that. And then we'll finish up by doing 12 more single crochets to get all the way around to the end of the round. That's going to bring your stitch count up from 20 to 22 stitches. So let's get started. We're going to do 5 single crochets to get that started. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 single crochets. Then we're going to do an increase, meaning 2 in the same stitch. So there's 1 and 2. Then 1 single crochet after that increase, and another increase after that. So 2 in the same stitch after that 1 single crochet. This is actually going to be where our nose is going to be. And then we're going to finish this up by doing 12 more single crochets to get to the end of the round. And hey, if you haven't yet, please like this video down below and subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you just get notified whenever we come out with new videos, which we come out with all the time, including live crochet alongs where you can join me, crochet something live on camera, and ask any questions and get help live if you need it. Okay, so we're just coming to the end of our round here. That's going to be 21, and our last stitch will be 22 stitches around. All right, we're going to take our stitch marker here and just fold it up like this, and we're just going to ignore it as we work on to our round 5. Now, before I continue on to round 5, though, I'm going to cut, I'm going to cut our tail end of our stitch marker because we don't need it that long, and we're going to cut the tail end of the very beginning so that they're both out of our way and we can continue on uninhibited. Okay, so for our next round, round 5, we're going to be single crocheting into each stitch around. Now I will say this is where our pattern starts to differentiate from the beginner to the advanced pattern. Let me show you the example. So here we have our finished beginner pattern that we're currently working on. We're currently right around up here. We've done these stitches right here, so we're doing a round of single crochets. And as you can see, it's very simple, no facial features at all. But in our advanced pattern, we're going to be adding a few things. Now this round is where you can add your nostrils in if you'd like to. And you can add and remove any part of this advanced pattern into our beginner pattern to make it more just different than before. Now in round 5 here that we're currently on, you can make your nostrils by working into this stitch from above right here. So working into these increased stitches, you do a double crochet. Now again, if you want to learn more about the advanced pattern, check out the video after this one. So I'm crocheting this beginner one, and then I'll crochet our advanced one right after it. So you can see those advanced techniques. But round 5 here is where those advanced techniques are going to start to come out. Okay, so let's continue on though. For this beginner pattern, instead, we're just going to do a single crochet into every single stitch around. And this is a great opportunity for you to count your stitches because you should still have 22 stitches around. So just keep crocheting around for 22 stitches. Another thing that you can note here is this round is actually where the eyes are going to be. The eyes will be in round 5, stitch number 4 and 14, I believe. We're going to look on our finished project in just a moment just to make certain of that. But that is going to be where your stitches are going to be. So this could be a good opportunity for you to count your stitches and mark those spots in the finished project. So let me just go ahead and finish this round really quick. 1, 2, and this will be our last stitch for 22 stitches around. Now let's pull our loop out really quick. For round 6, by the way, if you want to just keep going, it's just going to be a single crochet into each stitch around. We're going to get to that in just a moment though. But before I do that, I just want to mark where the eyes are going to be, which is going to save our butts later on. So it's going to be in round 5, which is the round we just did, stitch number 4 and 14. It's easiest when I hold it upside down like this to count my stitches. So what we can do if we want to is we can mark those stitches down. So that would be stitch number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So one eye is going to end up being here. You know what? Let's go ahead and mark it. I don't usually do this, but it might not hurt. We'll see when we get to it. So what I'm going to do to mark that, by the way, is I'm going to take my crochet hook from the back here, just like that. We're just going to pull a loop of a different color through like that. And then we're going to find our next stitch and pull the other end through. We'll remove this little extra yarn at the end so that we can really easily just add our eyes in. So that's going to be stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, and stitch 14. So it'll be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 will be right here. So this should be where our eyes will go once we finish a few more rounds of our piece. So if you want to, you can mark those stitches just like that. Okay, but we're going to get to those in just a moment. We can just leave those there for now. Pull our stitch marker up and continue on to round 6. Round 6 is another round where you could add a more advanced technique. So let me show you on the finished one again. So this is our beginner one that we're currently working on. This is our advanced. Round 6 here is where you would add your lip if you were adding an upper lip and teeth. We're not doing that, however. So all we need to do for round 6 is just one single crochet into every single stitch around. And you still should have 22 stitches around, all single crochets. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on just single crocheting into each stitch around and counting my stitches to 22 to make sure that I'm on the right stitch count. And hey, I know you probably saw this in the beginning, but this is just part of a bunch of different dinosaur patterns that I've made, all of which are playable pieces in my brand new dinosaur game, Lava Run. It's a tabletop game where you help your dinosaur escape a volcanic eruption, and it's so cool. My favorite part is that it's designed specifically for these crocheted pieces so that you can actually crochet your pieces and play a board game with it. But it's also designed so that you can craft your pieces in any way that you want. So you can make them out of clay, out of Legos, out of origami, however you want. But obviously, my favorite way is to crochet them. If you want to learn more, go to lavarungame.com. Oops, there we go. Okay, so we're on our last stitch there. That should be 22 stitches around. We can pull our stitch marker up and we'll continue on to round 7. Now rounds 7, 8, and 9 are all going to be the same, regardless if you're making the beginning pattern or the advanced pattern. So we'll just go ahead and count them through. For round 7, we're going to be doing our first decreases. For round 7, we'll do 4 single crochets, which is going to be right after where our eye stitch marker is, and then 2 invisible decreases in a row. An invisible decrease is my favorite way to decrease. However, there are multiple different ways to decrease, which you can find right up here. Each version of decreasing has benefits and you know, pros and cons to each kind of version of how you're crocheting. So this is just my favorite way to decrease. Let's start by getting to our first invisible decrease. So it's going to be 4 single crochets to start. So it's 1, 2, 3, get a little bit more yarn, and 4 will be right here. Now we're going to do an invisible decrease. For an invisible decrease, we're going to take our crochet hook and go under the front loops only of each of the next 2 stitches simultaneously. That sounds way harder than it is. Basically, it just means that normally where we'd be working under both loops like this time we're only going to work under this first front loop. And then once we're under the first front loop, we're going to loop our crochet hook around to position under the next front loop and get under that front loop as well. It'll look something like this. And then after that, we're going to do just a simple single crochet. Let's go ahead and do it though. It's actually not too difficult if you just take it one step at a time. So we're going to start by coming up from the bottom of the stitch like this and poke straight up like that. So that's going to be your first stitch. So there's 1. Then I loop my crochet hook around to position under the next front loop like that, and then push up like this so that we're under 2 front loops simultaneously. Then we'll yarn over and pull it through those 2 front loops by twisting it and really scoop it. You want to make sure that full stitch gets through those front loops. Then we can yarn over again and pull through those 2 loops like a normal single crochet like that. That's going to be our invisible decrease, which is a super useful stitch. We're going to do another one now, and this is the kind of tricky part, is it's a little bit hard to see where the next stitch is. It's going to be this one with those two top loops most clear. As you can see, this one right here, you can't really see that back loop. It's kind of tucked behind, so it's hard to see. But this one right here, you can see them both very clearly, meaning this is the next stitch. For our next stitch, we want to do another invisible decrease, so 2 invisible decreases in a row. So we're going to go under that next front loop here, poke up, twist it around to get under the second front loop, and poke up again, and then do our single crochet by yarning over and scooping. So twist it and scoop it through like that. Then yarn over again and pull through our 2 loops to finish that second invisible decrease. After that invisible decrease, we want to do 1 more single crochet and then 2 more invisible decreases. So 1 single crochet in the next stitch. Again, to find it, you just look at the one where you can see both of those loops. So like right here. And this time we're working under both loops and we're doing just 1 single crochet as normal. Now we're going to do those 2 invisible decreases again. So let's do 2 invisible decreases. Start with our first one. Under the front loop, poking straight up, will be 1. Twist around to get into the second front loop, 2, yarn over, twist it and scoop it to pull it through, then yarning over again, pull through our 2 loops to finish that invisible decrease. We want 2 invisible decreases in a row again, so we're going to do another one. So we're going to go front loop only and front loop only, yarning over, twisting, tucking, and pulling through. Yarn over again, and pull through 2, and that'll finish up our last invisible decrease for this round. To finish this round up completely though, we want to do 9 more single crochets to get to the end of the round. So we're going to go into our next stitch right here. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this will be our 9th and final single crochet. We'll put our stitch marker up again and continue on to round 8. Now rounds 8 and 9, 2 rounds in a row, really simple rounds. You should have 18 stitches around, and for rounds 8 and 9, all you need to do is do a single crochet into every single stitch around. By the way, you should have 18 stitches around because in our previous round, we invisible decreased 4 times total. Remember, we did 2, single crochet 2. Because of that, we decreased our stitch count down from 22 stitches, which is what we had at the end of round 6, down to 18, which is what our stitch count at the end of round 7 here should be. For our next 2 rounds, rounds 8 and 9, we're just doing a single crochet into every stitch. So you should have 18 single crochets around by the end of these 2 rounds of just single crochets. Now, because this is a relatively simple couple of rounds of just single crocheting around, I'm going to go ahead and do it off camera, and I'll be back in just a moment just to save a little bit of time. But again, this is just 2 rounds of purely single crochets all the way around. Okay, and that's our end of our 2 rounds of single crochets. We just finished up round 9. I'm going to pull my stitch marker out slightly because before we continue on to the body of our beginner T-Rex, we want to add our eyes in. Now we have done our little stitch markers here to help keep track of it, but our eyes again are going to go into round 5, stitch number 4 and 14. The easiest way I found to find those exact spots is actually to look at the increase from right here. So that's going to be our last increase made. You can count your stitches. You know, this is going to be round 1, this will be round 2, 3, and round 1 would be right here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is going to be round 5. And after your stitch markers, you'd have stitch 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you count over to 14. But you could actually also just look at the increases right here, because once you can tell the difference between a single crochet and an increase, it makes it way easier to find where your stitches are. An increase, by the way, looks like this. You can tell it's an increase because there's 2 V's going into one spot. Normally we just have 1 V going into one spot, but this one has 2 of them kind of mashed into the same place. That's how I can tell the difference between a single crochet and an increase. If you find your first increase made in round, I believe that's round 1, 2, 3, I think that's round 4. So if you find that first increase made in round 4, look at the right stitch and count up one stitch. You'll find round 5, and we'll count over 1, 2 to find our first eye. Once we find that first eye, obviously we have that already in place. So I'm just going to pull our stitch marker out and then place our eye in where that stitch marker was. And then we're going to do the same over. Once you find your first one, though, it's easy to find the next one. It's going to be 10 stitches over into round 14. So that's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. That's going to be this stitch right here where our stitch marker is coming out. So I'm going to pull it all the way out. We're going to take our eye, just place it, place it right into that same stitch, like that. And this is just the places that I found work best. You can obviously change your eyes. You can change the eye size. You can add different kinds of eyes. If you want to learn how to customize safety eyes, I do have a video tutorial where I go through that as well. But I've just found these two spots are by far the best spots. Any different spots, it kind of ends up wonky for one reason or another at the end of the round, or at the end of the piece. Now I'm going to go ahead and lock these eyes into place with this back locking mechanism. You can lock them this way or that way. It's easiest to lock it in like this to place the concave part on the inside like that. But let's go ahead and try to do it this way instead this time. I'm just going to lock it in, and we're just going to push it hard enough so that the edges of the eye part get pushed over the sides of this. So like that. There will be our first one in, and see, it kind of like indents the eye in by placing it that way. I usually actually like to place it the other way around, but I thought, you know what, let's give it a shot a different way in this video, because why not? Let's place the other one on in the same exact way, like that. You know what, it doesn't want to, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it the other way, like I originally wanted to. So place like this. Oh, that's so much easier. It locks right into place. It's hard to remove these eyes, but because that one didn't really connect as well, I believe it's going to be pretty easy to remove. All I have to do to remove this, oh, let's see. Actually, you know what? This guy's pretty on there. But if you can get a needle under it, you usually can just kind of like pry it off like that. And then we'll twist it around to match the other side and pop it on. Again, I usually like to put it on this way, but I wanted to try the other way. But because the other one wasn't really working with me, I flipped it back around. Okay, so that's going to be adding the eyes. Now is when, if you're making an advanced pattern and you've made the lip, this is your opportunity to add teeth to it. We'll do that in the more advanced pattern, however. Okay, so let's continue on to the T-Rex's body. Pull our stitch marker up. And we're on round 10 now. Now, I will also say round 10 is when you can start to add color changes to the belly to create a little belly right here. Now, this is much more advanced, and we'll be doing this in the advanced pattern, but this is when we would be doing that if you wanted to add a belly to your piece. But we won't be doing that here. Instead, we'll just continue on as normal. I will say round 10 is also where we're going to create our arms. To get to our first arm, though, we're going to start by doing 4 single crochets. Then we'll make our first arm and do 7 single crochets, do our second arm, and then another 7 single crochets to finish this round up. But let's start by doing 4 single crochets to get to our first arm. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's going to get us to our first arm. Okay, so for an arm, what we want to do is we will chain 3 times. 1, 2, and 3, like that. After you chain 3 times, we want to pull this nice and tight and then skip those last 2 chains and slip stitch into the 3rd chain, meaning the first one that you made. So we're going to take our crochet hook, find that first chain. I usually just work into the top of this. You can work into the back bump on the edge here, but it's a little easier just to work into the top like that. And then yarn over, pull it through that chain, and then through the loop on the hook like that. And that's going to create a little point. That'll create our first little finger. Now we want to do that again, kind of again. We want to chain 2 now. 1 and 2. we'll pull that tight and then slip stitch into the same stitch you just worked into by finding that same chain right here, yarning over, pulling through, and then pull through the loop on the hook like that. That's going to create these two little points in our little fingers, and that's going to be how we're making an arm. We'll make another arm in just a second, because after we make an arm, we would then want to do 7 single crochets to get to the next arm. The next stitch, by the way, here's our last stitch. You can see where that V is. The next stitch is going to be right here. So we'll do 7 single crochets across to find our next arm. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 single crochets across. Now we're going to do another one of those arms. I'll do it a little bit quicker now. So we want to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, pull tight, and slip stitch into the third chain from the hook right here. Pull through and pull through the hook like that. And then we want to chain 2 after doing our first point, 1 and 2, pull tight, find that same place where we just did our slip stitch, yarn over again, pull it through, and pull through the loop on the hook to create another slip stitch. And that's going to be the arm. Next, we can single crochet into the next stitch to finish that part up. And we want to finish this round up by doing another 7 single crochets to get to the end of the round. That's going to be our first single crochet. We want 7 total. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 will be the end of that round. Okay, now we can pull our stitch marker up and continue on now to round 11. For round 11, it's actually not too tough. We're just going to be doing mostly single crochets with some increases in the back here. But the important thing to note is that you want to work around the arms so that the arms are sticking on the outside of your piece like that, not on the inside. I'm going to show you how to do that though. It's actually not too tough. All you need to do is do 16 single crochets and then 1 increase and then 1 single crochet for round 11. That's going to bring your stitch count up from 18, which is our current stitch count in round 10, up to 19 stitches around. So let's start by doing our 16 single crochets to get started, and we will work around that arm. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4 like normal. Once you get to the arm, it's easiest to kind of like pull the loop out, pull the arm to the side, find the next single crochet by looking for that V, and stick your needle or hook under the next one. Then yarn over again with the end attached to the ball and pull it through that loop. Once you're through that loop, we tuck the arm on the outside. Sometimes you can kind of like hold it down with your thumb. And then once it's on the outside, I pull my loops on the hook nice and tight to make sure that the arms are on the outside. And then we'll just do our single crochet around that arm like that. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want 16 before our increase. So let's keep going. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Now we're going to go around this other arm. I'm going to do the same thing. Pull a loop out, get into the next stitch right here, pull another loop through it, make sure the arms are on the outside, and then pull it tight. Then we'll yarn over and pull through 2 to finish that stitch. So I believe that's stitch number 12, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Yes. So that's 12. We want to get to 16, 13, 14, 15, and 16 will be right there. Now we want to do an increase into this next stitch right here. So 2 in the same stitch will be 1 and 2 in the same stitch. Notice how they're kind of clustered together. And then 1 single crochet after it right here. There we go. You should now have 19 stitches around. We'll put our stitch marker up and continue on to round 12. For round 12, it's kind of pretty simple, especially when you're not doing the belly color changes. It's going to be 16 single crochets, 1 increase, 1 single crochet, and another increase to finish the round up and bring your stitch count up from 19 to 21 stitches because we're doing 2 more increases in round 12. Let's start though by doing 16 single crochets to get to the start of our piece. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just keep going around. And actually, the easiest way to count your stitches in this part, I mean, maybe it's not the easiest, but when you're a more advanced crocheter, you actually don't have to count your stitches, because I can know that where I put my increase in our last round is where we're going to be putting our increases in this round. So I can just keep single crocheting around until I find that increase and know that that was 16 stitches around, because it's the same stitch count as last round. Now, again, that is kind of a more advanced technique, but it's good to understand before you do it. So that'll be 16 single crochets to get to our first increase. Now we're going to do an increase into the next stitch right here, meaning 2 in the same stitch, 1 and 2. Then 1 single crochet into the next one right here, and 1 more increase into the next stitch right here, 1 and 2 in the same stitch. Pull our stitch marker up and continue up to round 13. You should now have 21 stitches around. For round 13, we want to do 18 single crochets, then 2 increases and 1 single crochet at the very end to pull our stitch count up from 21 to 23 stitches around. By the way, we only have 3 more rounds to go, which is pretty exciting. So we're going to start by doing 18 single crochets to get around, basically just getting to the end of that first bit there. So we want to do all 18 single crochets. And hey, again, if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe, and check out more of my dinosaur patterns at clubcrochet.com/dinos or /dinosaur. Links for both of them are going to be in the description down below. And it's a great way to support this channel. And please consider checking out my board game. I think it's really, really cool, and I'm really excited about it, but I'm kind of nervous. So if you like it and you think it's a cool idea, please consider supporting it in September when we launch the crowdfunding campaign. So that'll be 16. We have 2 more. That'll be 17 and 18. And now we want to do 2 increases in a row. So here's our first increase, just meaning 2 in the same stitch. So that's 1 and 2. And then another increase right here. 1 and 2 in that same stitch. And then 1 single crochet afterwards right here to finish that round up. And that'll be the end of round 13. You should have 23 stitches around. Pulling our stitch marker up and continuing on to round 14. Now round 14 is where we're going to be adding our legs. And our legs, there are 2 different ways to make the legs. We're going to be doing the beginner version, which is basically making what I call a bulky bobble stitch, which is 5 double crochets together if you're used to what a bobble stitch is. So we're going to do a big bobble stitch right here for the legs, but working in 1 round up. Now, don't worry, I am going to show you how to do that in just a moment. If you want to make a more advanced leg, though, check out the advanced tutorial here. That's going to create 2 little toes at the end. The reason you might want to do the advanced legs is A, they're pretty cute, but B, it also kind of does help keep your dinosaur standing upright a little bit easier. But it's not like that big of a difference, to be completely honest. Now we're going to be doing our more simple legs in this video because it is designed for beginners. And we're going to start by doing 4 single crochets to get to our first leg. So we'll skip our stitch marker here, go ahead and tuck that in. And we're going to do 4 single crochets to get to our first leg. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to work something called a bulky bobble stitch into the round above. So not into this next stitch like normal, but into 1 round above right here so that the leg is a little bit taller. So we're going to do something called a bulky bobble stitch into that, which is basically the same thing over and over, and it makes this big knot. Okay, it's not too crazy. You want to start by yarning over the crochet hook and then going into the stitch. Now, don't forget the stitch is 1 round up right here and go into that stitch. Now we want to yarn over with the end attached to the ball again and pull that under the stitch like this. You should now have 3 loops on the hook. Then we can yarn over and pull through just 2 of those 3 loops. And it's easiest to do 1 at a time. So there's 1 and 2 like that. Okay, for a bulky bobble stitch, we then want to repeat that same thing 5 times total. So let's do our second repeat of that, because this will be our first repeat. So second repeat, we yarn over, we go into the stitch into the same exact stitch. So follow where that stitch is. So right here, yarn over again and pull it through. Then going over it, yarn over again and pull through 2. 1 and 2. That'll be our second repeat. Let's do our third repeat. Now on our third repeat, you're going to see a very good technique here. You want to go into that stitch right here. And when you get into that stitch, we'll yarn over, and we really want to twist it and really scoop it like that. That's going to make sure that everything gets really clean. Then we can yarn over and pull through 2. 1 and 2 like that. So that's 3 repeats. We want 5 total. So we do a yarn over into the same stitch, yarn over and pull it through. Notice how I'm keeping everything really taut. That's important. Then yarn over, we want to pull through 2 loops. So 1 and 2. One more repeat of that. Yarn over into the same stitch. This is when it's going to get kind of tough because there's a lot of stitches here. Then yarn over and pull it under. Then going over it, we'll yarn over and pull through 2. 1 and 2 like that. You now should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on the hook. To finish up our leg, we're going to yarn over and pull through all those loops by really twisting it to line up with the holes and scoop it all the way through. Really important for a bulky bobble stitch. After doing our first leg, to get to our second leg, we want to do 6 single crochets. To find the next stitch, just notice how this is all kind of covering up a stitch right here. So the next one's going to be right here, and you really want to make sure you're under both of those loops of the next stitch as well. So go into that next stitch right here and just kind of wiggle your crochet hook in and scoop to pull through 2, 1 and 2. That's going to be the first of 6 single crochets. After I finish that, by the way, I always like to tweak the leg and kind of pinch it to make sure it's on the outside of the piece, because sometimes it can get kind of tucked on the inside and you don't want that. So we want 6 single crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we're going to do another leg, which is going to be made the exact same way. I'm going to do it a little bit quicker now. Yarn over into the stitch. Again, we're working 1 round up. Yarn over again and pull through. Then yarn over and pull through 2. 1 and 2. Repeating that same process 5 times around. Same stitch. Pull through 2. 1 and 2. Third repeat. 1, 2. I got 2 in one go. Let's try it again. This will be our fourth repeat. 1, 2. Last repeat into the same stitch. Pull through 1 and 2 like that. We have 6 loops total on the hook. So we yarn over and we twist and scoop it through them all to finish up our second leg. Okay, after finishing up our 2 legs, we want to do 7 single crochets and then an increase, and then finish up with 3 single crochets at the end. So we're going to start by doing 7 single crochets. The next stitch over is going to be right here. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now we want to do an increase into the next stitch right here. So 2 in the same loop, 1 and 2, and then finish up by doing 3 more single crochets to get to the end of the round. 1, 2, and 3 like that. All right, that's probably the hardest round, by the way. So if you finish that round, congratulations. That's pretty impressive. Now, just to make sure that this leg, notice how it's kind of like stuffed on the inside. So I'm going to go poke it from the inside out like that and kind of pinch it outwards so that it's really present on the outside, not on the inside. All right, so now we're on to our last round. We're going to pull our loop up here. And this last round is actually stopped early, so it's not very long. For our last round, we're going to do the following thing. We're going to start by doing 2 single crochets. So just 2 single crochets to start will be 1. This is round 15, by the way. Oops, I'm going to undo that last one. Let's try that again. There we go. So that's 2 single crochets to start, right? 1, and 2. There we go. Now we're going to do the following repeat. The repeat is 1 invisible decrease, working into those 2 front loops. Remember, we did the invisible decrease up here by the face, but I'll show you that again in a second. So 1 invisible decrease, and then 1 single crochet repeated 4 times around. So invisible decrease, single, invisible, single, invisible, single, invisible, single. And then we're going to stop early, and that'll be the end of our crochet. So let's get started. We're going to start by doing our invisible decrease by working into the front loops only of the next 2 stitches. So I kind of poke up from the bottom. There's 1, scoop around, will be 2, then yarn over, twist and scoop. To finish that invisible decrease, we yarn over and pull through 2. Okay, so invisible decrease 1, and then single crochet in the next. The next can be kind of hard to see, but you can see these 2 loops if you really kind of twist it on the inside. That's because it's made on the leg, and it's kind of hard to get into that stitch. So we go under just those 2 loops, and then we'll do our single crochet. All right, so there's our first repeat. Oops, I'm going to do that again just so that this loop is a little tighter, just slightly tighter, just to match the gauge. All right, so that's 1 invisible decrease, 1 single crochet. We want 4 repeats. So let's do our next repeat. That's going to be invisible decrease, front loop only. The next invisible decrease is a little tough. There we go. And then a single crochet. And again, don't forget, if you don't like invisible decreases, you can use different ones here as well. And then a single crochet in the next right here will be the end of our second of 4 repeats. Let's do our third repeat, front loop, and invisible decrease, and then single crochet 1. Last repeat is going to be using the leg stitch, so we only need the front loop of the leg stitch, and then the front loop of the next stitch, and then we do our single crochet into those front loops, so that we can invisible decrease. Then 1 single crochet into the next stitch right here, and that should finish your piece up. You should now have 20 stitches around if you want to count your stitches. Pull this out a little bit. Yeah, let's go ahead and count our stitches though. So we got, right here's our last one, so our next one's going to be right here. We're going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Perfect. All right, if you have the right stitch count, we can cut our yarn. We do want a pretty long end, about that long should be fine. We're going to use this to sew our piece closed. And all you need to do is pull it all the way through. So we just pull this loop all the way out like that, and it just creates this long end. Okay, now's the fun part, is stuffing it up and sewing it closed. I really, really like the system that I have here for sewing it closed. What we can do, first off, we want to pull our stitch marker out completely. So let's go ahead and just pull it out. I usually like to start just getting a few stitches out, and then we can pull it out from the bottom. Just really tight, following the grooves to make sure it gets all out. There we go. Okay, next we want to stuff it mostly, is what I say. I say stuff mostly because you want to leave a little bit of room in there to stuff it up after we've sewn the first half closed. So we're going to take our stuffing here. We want to really make sure it gets under the top of those eyes. That's going to be very important for the stuffing part, is you want it to make sure that it's over the eyes. And you don't need to overstuff it. We can also use our stitch marker and our extra threads here. We'll stuff those in there as well, and I'll add just a little bit of additional stuffing in just to be safe. Just a bit of additional stuffing. We'll come and grab a little bit more stuffing after this first half of sewing it closed. Okay, so there it is. Head's all stuffed up. I like that. We left a little bit of room on the inside. We don't want our stuffing showing through our stitches at all. And we can come back and we're going to stuff it a little bit more in a second. But first, let's do the first half of our sewing closed. So we need to thread this onto a needle, and we're going to start by sewing the tail closed, and then we're going to stuff it a little bit more, and then we're going to sew the bottom closed right here. To sew the tail closed, we're going to start by skipping 11 stitches and working into the top of the 12th stitch. So counting over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 will be right here, and then 12 will be right here. So I'm going to work into that 12th stitch over, and then I fold it over, and work out of the first stitch, so the next stitch over, so right here. So we want to work into the top of number 12 and then out of number 1 like that. And we're just going to pull it all the way through. Okay, now with the tail pinched tight like this, what we want to do is work all the way up. There should be 8 stitches left undone, by the way. So if you want to count from where this part's coming out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you should have 8 stitches left over. Okay, now we're going to work all the way up. So we want to fold it in half like this, then go into the top of the next stitch over. So this is the last one we worked into. This is the next one, and come out of the adjacent stitch on the opposite end. We're working all the way up to the tail in the same method. Okay, and after each one, I like to pull it pretty tight, and up to the next one, like that, into the one across from it. Make sure you're under both loops of both of those stitches, by the way. Okay, next one over will be right here, and out through right here. And then 2 more, this one and then this one. And the last one's a little complicated, but it's going to be these last 2 loops at the end. It's kind of easiest to just go in through across it like that. Now, after you've worked your way up the tail, we want to work our way back down to the bottom. To do that, we're going to go into the same stitch we just worked into and follow the stitches back. So in, and then follow it all the way back. See how I'm like running with where that stitch is? We want to basically create little V's on the bottom of our seam here so that they mimic what the rest of the stitches look like. I always like to make this sure this first one is pulled correctly so that it's more like a V like that. Okay, then we'll go across, in, and then we're working back down to the beginning. And we're following those stitches as we do to create little V's. See, so they mimic kind of a little bit what stitches look like. Up and across. Just a couple more here. Up and across. Like that. Just make sure it's all pretty taut. Okay. Up and across. All right. Now the last one, I go in through where we started right here. That's going to be that stitch 12 that we worked into. And we want to come up straight through the center of our piece like this. Okay, there we go. Now before we do our last part and sew the bottom closed, we want to stuff it fully, especially his tail. Notice how it's really flattened right there. We need to stuff it up. So we're going to grab some stuffing. And I'm going to go into the bottom here and really make sure that the stuffing goes into the tail. If you're having a hard time getting your finger into the bottom here, because you've like maybe crocheted it a little too tight, you can use the back end of a crochet hook or a pencil. The eraser end of a pencil will help a lot for stuffing it if you can't do it with your finger. Okay, just a little bit more here. Yeah, that's pretty good. Go ahead and just add a little bit more stuffing. And the other thing that I like to add here when I'm stuffing it full is you can add something now for some added weight. You don't have to, obviously it stands up on its own, but if you want to add some extra weight to prevent it from toppling over like that, you can. The easiest way I find to do that is just to use some nickels like this, or some heavy coins in general. You can stuff it with really whatever you want though. You can do beans or beads or whatever. But I like to add just a nickel or 2 in the bum, like that, right in the bottom. 1 should probably be enough. Yeah, it holds pretty tight with 1. We can even stuff that back a little further to give it a more centered weight, like that. And we could add another one. I actually don't think I really need another one though, so I'll save that for our next dinosaur. And to finish sewing it closed, all we need to do is take our needle and go through the front loops only of those last 8 stitches around. So that's going to start right here, will be our first one. And we're just going to go up through the front loops only of all the stitches. So there's 1, 2. I'm just going to keep working at those front loops around. Now, if you have yarn that's a little more fragile. So our club crochet yarn is actually really sturdy. But if you do have a more fragile yarn, be careful. You could accidentally break your yarn as you're sewing this closed, which wouldn't be the end of the world, but it would mean that you'd need to add some additional yarn on the inside to help sew it closed. If you need extra help with that, by the way, just let me know if you have any questions in the live streams or using the Discord or Facebook group. Once we're under all those front loops, we can hold it nice and close at the end here and just pull it tight, and it should tighten the hole up like that. And then I actually like to go down and kind of across, so kind of like in like this. And there's like the back loop of a stitch right on the inside there. You can just go back on the inside if you want to though. And then out pretty much anywhere you want on the outside. You pull tight and through like that. And then we can just double knot this just like that. And it'll have everything in there. And that's going to be the end of our crocheting part of our project. And look, he even stands up upwards and has like a little bit of an angle if you want to, but he should stand up on his own too. Okay, the last thing that I want to do for this dinosaur specifically is show you how to customize it slightly by adding little stripes along the outside. To do that, we're going to use some of our teal yarn. You actually don't need very much of this. About that should be just fine. I think that's actually even more than we need. And I do have a very specific way that I like to add stripes on there. You can add stripes, you can add dots by using like just bullion knots or something. I do find that stripes on these beginner ones is a little bit easier. So this is what I like to do. I come in out through somewhere along the bottom like this, and we're gonna come up through right around here on the back right there. So that's probably fine. Come up, and we want to leave just a little bit left over on the outside for double knotting. We're going to go across all the way to about an adjacent stitch on the opposite side. So a couple of stitches, 1, 2, looks like 3 stitches away from the other arm will be like 1, 2, maybe like right here. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. So like right here. We then want to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds. We want to go up 4 rounds from there. So 2 would be right here. We're going to work into that one later, but we actually want to do 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, somewhere on the side so that it's somewhat perpendicular. You can have it go inwards if you want to. You can go up more. I kind of find inwards is a little bit better so that it's got a bit of an angle to the stripes. So up like that. Don't worry too much about the little ends coming through. We can just pick those out. And we're going to go all the way across to find the adjacent stitch in the same round, which it looks like will be right here, so that it's still anchored outwards towards the next eye, you know? So go out through there, and we're going to do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. We want to come all the way up to here. So 1, 2 would be right there. 3 and 4 should be 1, 2, 3, 4 should be right all the way up to like here on the eye. Oops, I lost the end of my yarn. So we'll thread that back onto a needle too. There we go. Okay, so 4 up. All right, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna follow this across just to the adjacent stitch on the opposite side. And now we're gonna work back down. This time though, we only need to go down 2 rounds. So 1, 2 would be about right there. And I like to really make sure it's held downwards so that it kind of matches the round. So like this a little bit, pull it tighter, like that. And then we're gonna go across to the adjacent stitch on the opposite side so that it's still straight. And this time we're gonna go down 4 to find that empty gap on the bottom right here, all the way down to about right there. And I'm holding it down with my finger as I work it through like that. And then we're gonna go all the way across to the adjacent side right here. Looks like if we go, we go right here or right here. It looks like there might be a little bit better. And we're gonna come all the way down and out through where our other tail end is. This is just so that we can double knot these 2 ends together. Oops, lost our end there. And we're gonna pull this all the way tight make sure that it's really lined up with the other side. Okay, we can pull all these loops nice and tight now. And make sure everything's taut. Okay, kind of angle the face a little bit. And then we can just double knot these two on the inside, cut close, and tuck the knot back on the inside to really make it clean. So there's one, and then two for our double knot. Cut it nice and close. And you can usually just stuff the needle or the ends back in there by just kind of squishing it, and it should stuff those knots back in. But if you're having a hard time with that, you can use the back of your needle to help kind of stuff that up as well. Okie dokie, let's defuzzify our T-Rex. Maybe try to fix that end right there a little bit. And let's clean up these little fuzzes too. Oh, how cute is that though? So cute. And there we go. There's our little beginner T-Rex done. Next up, we want to make our more advanced T-Rex right here. So it's going to be almost the same thing, but we're going to have a few different alterations to make the lip, to add the teeth, to make spikes along the back, to add different feet, and to add a belly on the bottom. So there's a few different advanced techniques that we can add to our piece. But it's going to start like normal, but this time we're going to be using our purple yarn to just differentiate the two patterns. Okay, so we're starting with our purple yarn for our advanced T-Rex again, and we're making our slip knot, and we're starting by chaining 4. Now the beginning of this pattern is going to be pretty much the exact same as the other one. I just want to show you our first round here in detail with our 4 chains so that you can learn how to work into the back bumps of the chains instead of working into the top chains. So here we're at our 4 chains here, and for round 1, we're going to start into the second chain from the hook, and we'll single crochet 1, 2, and then we're going to do 3 single crochets, or an increase plus 1 into our third chain, then 1 single crochet into our fourth chain here, and then an increase or 2 single crochets into our last chain. We'll then finish up by doing a slip stitch into the first single crochet that we're making in this round to close it up. But normally for the beginner pattern, I've showed you how to work into the top loops for these chains, but this time I like to work into the back loop bumps because they kind of make a little bit cleaner of the top of our T-Rex. So here you can kind of see the top of this T-Rex. It's got a little, kind of just a little holy. It's just a slight difference that really makes it just makes it a little different. So we want to turn the back of our piece here so that we can see the back bumps. We're gonna do a single crochet into our first back bump right here. And just do 1 single crochet into that first back bump. Then we're going to do 1 more single crochet into the next back bump right here. So use your nail to help guide your hook into the stitch, and then we'll do another single crochet into that back bump. Into our third back bump, we're going to do 3 single crochets. So right here's our third one, get our nail in place, and we're going to do 3 single crochets there. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Now your piece should turn automatically. And into the backs of these chains, we're going to do the following. We're going to do 1 single crochet into the first one, and then 2 single crochets or an increase into the last one. As we do that, we're going to work around this tail end as we go to help lock it into place. So first, let's find our next chain, which is going to be, if you follow where the bottom of this single crochet is, it'll guide you straight into where that back loop is. It's a little hard to get into those back bumps though from this side. So you really want to just make your crochet hook, take your crochet hook, place it right where it's supposed to be, like under both of those loops there, and kind of wiggle it into that stitch like that. Once it's into that stitch, we're going to take our tail end, fold it over the yarn, and then yarn over with the end attached to the ball, and twist and scoop it through like that. Make sure our tail end is over it, and then yarn over and finish our first single crochet there in that back stitch. Now we're going to do an increase into our last chain right here, and kind of doing the same thing. We get like place over the 2 loops there. If you look at it from the top, and kind of wiggle it till you get our crochet hook in there. And we're going to keep working around our tail end here for these last 2 single crochets, but we're going to do 2 single crochets into that same spot. So there's 1 and 2 like that. To finish this round up, we're going to take our tail end, just let it float off to the side, and we're going to do a slip stitch into our first single crochet that we made right here, and just yarn over and slip stitch into that stitch just like that. Okay, let's go ahead. We'll grab a stitch marker just to keep things kosher. This, we'll use our teal stitch marker. And I'm just going to use a running stitch marker for this so that we don't have to keep removing it. That's pretty good. Okay, so we're just going to take this end. I'm going to place it down like so, fold it over, and just kind of try to ignore it as we work our next round of stitches. For round 2, we're going to do the following repeat. This is going to be the same as the beginner pattern. It's going to be 1 single crochet in the first and then 3 increases in a row, and repeat that twice. So 1 single crochet, 3 increases, 1 single crochet, 3 increases. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and do this round nice and quick. By the way, your first round should have had 10 stitches around, and now for our second round here, we should end up with 14 stitches around. So there's 1 single crochet in the first and then 3 increases in a row. An increase, again, is just 2 single crochets into the exact same stitch. All right, I'll be back in just a sec. Okay, we're on our last stitch here, and the last one's a little hard to work into because you're working into that slip stitch that we made. So just heads up, if that last one can be a little bit tricky to work into. We'll pull our stitch marker up. We're on round 3 now. Round 3 is going to be the following repeat twice, and each repeat includes another repeat. It's kind of confusing. Basically, we're going to do a single crochet into our first stitch, and then we're going to do the following repeat 3 times. 1 single crochet, 1 increase, 1 single crochet, 1 increase, 1 single crochet, 1 increase. Then we're going to repeat that whole process again. So 1 single crochet in the first, and then our repeat. Single crochet, increase, single crochet, increase, single crochet, increase, to finish up the round with 20 stitches around. You should have 14 currently. All right, let's do that. 1 single crochet into our first stitch right here, and then our repeat. So 1 single crochet, and then 1 increase. 1 and 2 in the same stitch. Repeat it all the way around. 1 single crochet, or sorry, 3 times around. 1 increase, 1 and 2. 1 more repeat, 1 single crochet, and then 1 increase. 1 and 2. All right, and then we'll repeat that again. 1 single crochet in the first, and then our repeat. 1 increase, 1 increase. All righty. 1, and then increase, 1 and 2. Okay, 1 more. All right, now before we start our next round, I do want to cut our tail end nice and short because it's kind of just getting in the way now. So we're going to cut our purple tail end short. We shouldn't have to worry about it coming undone because we worked around it. We'll continue on now to round 4, in which we're going to increase up to 22 stitches around. This is going to be the same as the beginner pattern. We're going to do 5 single crochets, 1 increase, 1 single crochet, 1 increase, and then 12 single crochets to get to the end of the round. You should end this round with 22 stitches around. So again, that's 5 single crochets, 1 increase, 1 single crochet. So here's our 5 single crochets, 1 increase, 1 single crochet, 1 increase, and then 12 single crochets to get to the end of the round. All right, finishing up our second increase here, and I'll just keep rocking and rolling. I'll be back in just a sec. Okay, and that's going to be the end of round 4. You should have 22 stitches around. Now for round 5, this is where we're really going to start differentiating from our beginning pattern, because this time we want to add nostrils to our dinosaur. To add our nostrils, instead of just doing a single crochet into every stitch around like we did in our beginner pattern, we're going to do 6 single crochets, and then our nostril, which is going to be working into the stitch on the round above, we're going to do a double crochet 1. And then we're going to do 2 single crochets, another nostril working to the round above, and then 12 single crochets to finish the round up. Let's go ahead and get that started. We're going to start with 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now working into the round above, that's going to be right here into the top of this increase stitch, we're going to do a double crochet. We're going to yarn over, go into that stitch right here, yarn over again, and pull it under the stitch. Then going over the stitch, we'll yarn over, pull through just 2 loops. There's 1 and 2, and then yarn over again and pull through our last 2, 1 and 2, like that. So there's our nostril. It's going to be done just like that. Then we're going to do, after doing that nostril, we're going to do 2 single crochets. So it's going to be right here will be the next one. So there's 1, and then another one right here will be 2. And then we're going to do our nether nostril. So we're going to yarn over, go into the round above right here, yarn over and do double crochet. There's 1, and then 1, 2, and then yarn over 1, 2. Okay, and that's going to create our second nostril. Finish this round up with 12 single crochets to get to the end of the round, and that's going to be the big difference for this round. You can kind of see those nostrils kind of poking out there. It just makes it a lot easier. You can embroider nostrils instead of like doing these crochet stitches to make nostrils, but it's just so much easier to do the crochet stitches because they end up in the perfect spot for this entire piece. Okay, so this is going to be the end of round 5 right there. We'll pull our stitch marker up. We actually forgot to pull our stitch marker up last round, but that's all right. And we'll continue on to round 6. Now, round 6 is a big departure from our beginner pattern. Essentially, in round 6, we want to create an upper lip, which we're then going to sew teeth under. So this way it gives our T-Rex some teeth, makes it kind of look goofy, but I kind of absolutely love it. All right, so for our round 6B, which is our alternative round, instead of doing a single crochet into each stitch around like we did on our beginning dinosaur, we're going to start by doing 3 single crochets, and then we're going to work into the front loops only and do 11 single crochets around. Then we'll do 8 single crochets into both loops again to get to the end of the round. So let's start by doing 3 single crochets to get to the start of our lip. So 1, 2, and 3, like that. Now we want to work only into the front loop, so only into the loop closest to you, and we want to do a single crochet into the next 11 stitches, so 11 single crochets in a row in that front loop only. To get only under that front loop, you want to poke up from the bottom and kind of wiggle your way in like that. So there's 1, 2, you want 11 of these. 3, when you get to the nostril, don't forget, don't work into this nostril part, but work into the front loop only on the top of the stitch. 4, and I believe that's 4 and 5. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then our last front loop only will be 11, I think. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, to finish this round up, we're going to work back into both loops now and finish up by doing 8 single crochets to get to the end of this round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so if you're making this upper lip now, for round 7, you're going to work into these unused back loops only that we didn't work in to our last round. So let's kind of fold it up like that. See it's leaving all these unused stitches here. Round 7 stitches are going to work into both loops if you can, but once you get into these to the lip part, you're going to work into those back loops that were not used before. It's actually not too tough to do though. I'll show you in just a moment. For round 7 though, we're going to be doing 4 single crochets, then 2 invisible decreases, then 1 single crochet, then 2 more invisible decreases, then 9 single crochets to get to the end of the round. It's really not too crazy. Our first 3 stitches are worked as normal. So working under both loops, we're going to do 1, 2, and 3 single crochets. Now working into those unused back loops only from the previous round, we'll do the following. First, we're going to do a single crochet. Now to get under that first unused front loop only, what you need to do is I kind of like to take my crochet hook and poke under like that. So I poke through the front of it and then I work back in and down like that, and it gets me under that front loop perfectly. Then I can yarn over and do our first single crochet into that first stitch. After doing our first single crochet, we want to do 2 invisible decreases. Now, an invisible decrease is pretty tough when you're working into the back loops because you're not supposed to. You're supposed to be working on the front loops, but it's not impossible. Basically, just take your crochet hook, go into this next loop, then loop it around again, go into the next loop right here. You might need your nail to help get it in there, and then yarn over and pull it under those two back loops and finish up with a single crochet. You can, however, if you want to, do a completely different stitch, which you can either do the single crochet two together by pulling a loop through the first one, and then a loop through the second, and then a third loop through all of the loops on the hook. Or you can do a sharp decrease, which is just pulling a loop through, and taking that second loop and pulling it through the two on the hook. Let me know if you have any questions on different kinds of decreases. You can find a tutorial up here, though, that'll go through details on different kinds of decreases. But let's just do my invisible decrease method. So we've gone under those two back loops. We'll yarn over and pull it under those back loops. So we go 1. I like to take it 1 at a time. 2, like that. And then yarn over and pull through 2 to finish that single crochet. So there's 1 invisible decrease. Now let's do another one. Back loop this time, and back loop, like that, then pull it through 1 at a time, 2, boom. Okay, after doing those 2 decreases, we want 1 single crochet, like that, and then 2 more decreases. I'm just pulling my loop out a little bit. So 2 more decreases. So we're gonna go under this one, we'll go 1, under this one, and then under the next one, and then do our single crochet. So we yarn over, 1, 2, boop. Okay, last one more decrease, 1, 2, and then we go 1, 2, boop. Okay, so that's the last decrease. We'll do 1 more single crochet into this last back loop only. And now we've worked under all the back loops from the lip. So now we can fold the lip back over and we can work under both loops of the next stitch. It's kind of hard to tell where the next stitch is, but it's right here. So it's after this little top of this lip. For the next stitch, we can work under both loops though. So we can get under both of those loops, and we want to do 8 more single crochets to get to the end of the round. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And that'll finish up our round. You should now have 18 stitches around if you want to count your stitches on the bottom. You'll have this weird lip coming out the top. Now, don't worry, we're going to fold it down like this eventually, but don't worry about it. If it's folded up like that, it's not really a big deal at all. In fact, it's going to be a little useful when we add our teeth after we finish our next 2 rounds. Okay, so rounds 8 and 9 are the exact same as the body. We want to just do a single crochet into every single stitch around for 2 rounds in a row. There should be 18 stitches total, by the way. So I'm just going to go ahead and just do 2 rounds of just single crochets, and I'll be back in just a moment when I can show you how to add our face and then how to add the teeth for your advanced T-Rex. So I'll be right back and do our 2 rounds of just single crochets all the way around for rounds 8 and 9. Okay, and that's going to be the end of round 9, and you should have 2 rounds of single crochets there. Let's pull our loop out. Before we continue on to the body and do our color changes and all these other fancy things, we need to add a face. Now the face for our advanced T-Rex is slightly different. The first thing that I want to do is I want to make these nostrils a little bit more pronounced. So I'll take my needle and I'll kind of go under where this nostril is, and I just like to pull it out a little bit and kind of open it up. And we'll do that on the same on this side too. We're just kind of like opening it up for him so that way he can breathe better. So I just kind of like to poke him out a little bit. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing, I actually like adding the teeth before I add the eyes for this. The eyes are going to go in the exact same place as the beginner T-Rex, which is going to be round 5, stitches 4 and 14. But for our advanced T-Rex, I like to add our teeth first. Okay, so if we're adding our teeth, this is going to be a whole separate part of the pattern. You want to use our white yarn for this, and we're just going to start by creating a slip knot, just like how we started our T-Rex. Okay, you don't need a very long tail end, but you just want a little one right there. And for our teeth, these are both going to be made the exact same way. You can chain 3, so 1, 2, and 3. Pull our chain nice and tight to create a little point, and then single crochet into the 3rd chain from the hook, aka the last chain right here, and just do 1 single crochet into that last chain, 1 and 2. And then we can yarn over, chain 1, and cut the yarn. And that's all you need to do for the teeth. Cut the yarn and then pull it all the way through. You should have these 2 little ends like this, which we're going to use to sew into the corners of the mouth. Let's go ahead. I'm just going to make a really quick second one here on camera so you can see it because it's just so quick to make. Slip knot, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, pull tight, skip those 2 chains and single crochet into the last chain from the hook. 1, 2, and then chain 1 and cut the yarn and pull through. That's it. Nice and easy to make our teeth. Now to place the teeth into the face, first off, let's look at these 2 teeth here. Wow, so cute. Okay, so to place these into the face, you can thread these ends on a needle and we're going to sew them into the corners of the mouth, but I actually find it's a lot easier to use your crochet hook for that. So here's how I like to do it. I'll take my crochet hook. We're going to go out through the corner of the mouth right here. See, so sometimes you can kind of come out through the top of the corner of the mouth, like where the lip is over, and then just kind of wiggle that in and through so that you're only into the bottom part of the lip. So just like that. Then we're going to yarn over with the corner of our tooth. Now the tooth kind of has a bit of an angle to it. You can kind of see this side is the chains and this side is the single crochets. And I like it so that the part with the chains are pointed on the inside so that the tooth is kind of angled in instead of this way and angled out. That kind of looks to me more like a vampire. So we're going to have it go this way. So we want to start by threading the outer part where the single crochet was. And we're going to yarn over onto that end of the loop and just pull that into the piece like that. And then we're going to come out through the next stitch over. So if I just really hold it open, take my crochet hook, and we're going to go up through the next chain, or next stitch right here, and do the same on this one. Yarn over, and just pull that into the body. Now here's the big trick. You really want those knots to be pulled on the inside. So we're going to pull this just tight enough, like this, just tight enough so that those knots get pulled on the inside, and then we can double knot it on the inside. So there's 1 and 2 like that. Now I'm just going to cut it to make things cleaner, but usually I just stuff it all the way in with those tail ends. Once you have those cut, you can fold it back out like this, and it'll add that tooth on the inside there. I sometimes like to kind of like tweak it into place and pinch it just to make sure it's nice and pointy like that. But that looks pretty good. Okay, so we're going to do that same thing on the opposite side. Let's go ahead and get our first lip in there. We're going to come out through the top of the lip right there. I'm sorry, the corner of the lip like that, and give this guy some dental routine. Let's start by adding the back of it. Don't forget, we want it to be scooped in towards the center of the mouth. So we're going to start by threading the back side right here, pull that in, then coming out through the next stitch over, which will be right there. We'll pull that other end in on the inside, and then we want to just pull it tight enough so that those knots get pulled in on the inside. We can double knot it together. 1 and 2 like that. Okay, cut this close and tuck it back out. All right, so that's going to be how to add our teeth to the underside of the lip, which really changes the whole dynamic of the face, in my opinion, and just makes it really, really cute. I also like to really fold the lip down over the teeth so it's not lipped out like that, so he's kind of being weird. So keep it down like that. Okay, the next part is we want to add our eyes. The eyes are actually in the exact same spots as the beginner T-Rex, but I like it a little easier to add after the teeth because the teeth kind of direct you to where the eyes go. Because the eyes go just above the lip right here. So right there. And I kind of wiggle it in like that. Now if you want to count your stitches, this should be stitch 14 of round 4. And this should be stitch 4 of round 4. We can count that in just a second. But just like right above where the corner of the tooth is, right above the lip, and then I just kind of like wiggle it into place to keep it in there. I also really like to make sure that all the stitches on that lip, like this, on the outside of the eye, like that. Now, if we want to count our stitches again, we will go ahead and do that. So we got, this is round 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oops. No, wait, that's round 5, sorry. That's round 1, end of round 1, and round 2, and round 3. Okay, so this is round 4, yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 will be right there. So that looks about right. You can obviously pull the eyes up. You can put them wherever you really want. That's just where I've found looks really good. By the way, this is it on a final version, so you can kind of really see how those eyes are gonna be placed in place. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll lock these backing parts on the inside here, just like that. There's one, and 2 like this, and our face of our advanced dinosaur is finished. Okay, now before we continue the body, we're going to be doing the body differently. The first thing that we want to look at differently is that we're going to be doing a bunch of optional color changes to create the belly of our T-Rex. So you can kind of see it when it's finished. So we're creating this belly here. Now this uses a variety of color changes. We're also going to be using a half color change in the first round of our color changes here, which can be pretty tricky. You do not have to add these if you don't want to. Just pretend it's all single crochets, or go back to the beginner one and do it that way. But if you want to try to push yourself, we're going to be doing this loop, this belly here. In the written instructions, it's going to be written, you're going to have to keep note of the changes that are marked in brackets to know when to change colors in the replacement rounds. We're going to be using half color changes into round 10 to make the top of it there, but the majority of them are just going to be regular color changes. Okay, but because we're doing it on video, it's a little easier to explain. We're going to start in A. A is going to mean our main color of yarn. Let's pull our stitch marker up like this. And for our secondary color, we're going to be using our yellow. So we're going to get that prepared as well. And we pull our stitch marker up, and now we'll make round 10. So this is going to be round 10B. We're going to start with our color A. We're going to do 4 single crochets and then an arm. Because I'll show you how to do the arms again, just because maybe you skipped that part of the beginner tutorial. So we're going to do 4 single crochets to start. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to make an arm. For an arm, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now in the beginner tutorial, I showed you to pull these chains tight and then work a slip stitch into the 3rd chain from the hook, and we worked into the top of these chains, and it made the arms look like this. To make them slightly cleaner, what we're going to do is work into the back loops of the chains instead, just like how we did the top of our T-Rex for our advanced pattern. So we're going to skip these 2 and work a slip stitch into the back loop of that 3rd chain from the hook. But before we do that, I like to pull my chains nice and tight to create them, make them more into a point, and then find that back bump, get our crochet hook in place it in the spot, and then kind of wiggle it in using our nail to help guide the hook under the stitch. Then we can yarn over and do a slip stitch by pulling it under that and then under the final loop. We're going to make another point here for our second finger. We're going to chain 2, 1, and 2, pull nice and tight, and then slip stitch into the same place that we did our last slip stitch. So right here, and we're going to do a second slip stitch into that same stitch. Okay, and that's going to be how to make the arms. We're going to do another arm over here, of course, but between arms, we want to do some color changes. So first, we're going to finish up by doing 1 more single crochet into the next stitch right here, all in purple. So we're going to pull through with purple right there. Okay, now wait. You should have 2 loops on the hook. Now we're going to start doing our weird color changes. So we want to grab our new color, and we're going to start by doing 4 single crochets using half color changes. So what we want to do is we want to take this yarn, place it in between the loop, 2 loops on the hook, and the one attached to the ball, and we want to hold it down with the dominant, our index finger of our dominant hand, and then with our non-dominant index finger, we're going to place it in between the 2 colors there and flip the new color under the old color. Then we'll yarn over with the new color, yellow. We're going to call this color B. And we're going to pull this through the 2 loops on the hook to technically finish that single crochet up, but with a new color. So just like that. And we're going to pull that tighter. Okay, so this is going to make the top of the stitch yellow, but we want the bottom of the stitch to be purple. So what we want to do again is we want to take our non-dominant index finger, place it between the 2 colors, and flip it under so that purple is over, and then go into the next stitch, which is going to be right here. Yarn over with our color A and pull that under, and then we're going to switch back to color B again. Now make sure you have this tail end a little longer so we don't accidentally pull it out. So now we want to switch back to color B, so I do the same thing. I place my index finger in between the 2, switch over so that color B is on top, and then pull through with color B, and then pull A slightly tighter. You always need to pull A slightly tighter to make it kind of match the rest of the stitches. Okay, so there's 1. This is the beginning of our second color change, so the top is done. Switch back over so the purple is on bottom. Go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull that next one under the first, then switch back over to yellow, under, yarn over, and pull through 2, 1, and 2. Remember, we want 4 of these, so this is going to be the start of our third color change. So we want to change over to purple again, go into the next stitch here, yarn over with purple, pull it under, then going over, we'll switch over to yellow for our last time, yarn over again, and pull through both of those loops with yellow. Okay, so this is the last half color change here. So if you hate this, don't worry, we only have 1 more. The next stitch right here is going to be the bottom wants to be purple, so we fold over so purple's over. Go into the next stitch here, yarn over with purple and pull it under. And now that's going to be the last of our color changes. We can yarn over and pull through those 2 loops with purple so that we only have 4 in yellow. The rest of this round is going to be all purple and made the same way as our last round. So once you've done that, you can kind of just actually, you can either leave this tail end like loose and just there, or what I usually do is actually I cut it. So I'll cut it like that, and then we're going to come back to this yellow in the next round to make more yellow stitches. So we're going to fold this over like that and finish, continue up this round all in A. Color A. So we're going to do 2 more single crochets to get to our next arm. So right here will be 1 and 2 single crochets. Now we're going to do another arm. Again, the arm is just chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Pull it tight, fold it over so that you find that back bump, and then slip stitch into that third chain's back lump, and then slip stitch through like that. And we're going to do 1 more of those, chain 2, pull it tight, and slip stitch into the same spot to create a second finger for your T-Rex. Now we're going to finish this up. We want to do, after that first single crochet, we want to do 7 more single crochets to get to the end of the round. So we're going to go into the next stitch here and just do a single crochet all the way across. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that'll be 7. Okay, pull our stitch marker up. We got our little arms here. Look how cute they are. And now we're going to continue on to round 11. This is going to be round 11B because we're doing more color changes. For this round, we're going to be doing 5 single crochets in color A, then 5 single crochets in color B, then 6 single crochets in color A, finishing up with an increase up back here in the last second to last stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the last stitch here. Let's just go ahead and take it 1 stitch at a time though. We're going to start with 5 in color A, and then we're going to switch to color B. So be ready to change after the 5th. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now for our 5th one, we want to make sure this arm is on the outside. So we're going to pull our loop out kind of, go into the next stitch right here, then yarn over and pull it through, and keep them both out. And then I like to tuck the arm on the inside there and then pull that loop tight so that the arm stays on the inside. After doing that, we want to change over, because that's our 5th single crochet, we want to change over to our yellow yarn. So we're going to place that in between the 2 loops on the hook and then attach the ball. Hold it down with the index finger of our dominant hand with our non-dominant index finger between, fold over, yarn over with our new color, and pull it through 1 and 2. Pull that a little tight. Now we don't need to cut the purple yarn, and we do want a little bit more of our yellow yarn, I will say. So let's go ahead and get that tail a little longer just in case. So what we want to do now is I like to just fold the purple over like that and hold it down with our dominant hand and just completely ignore it. Then we can do our 5 single crochets in our color B and then change back to our color A. This is called floating the yarn, by the way. So there's 1, and I'm working into both loops of these yellow stitches. 2, we want 5 of these. 3, 4, and here's our 5th. Now before we finish that 5th, I like to take the tail end, or the purple here, fold it over, and I do like to keep my finger, I like to keep there some gap here. So I like to keep my finger in between the 2 here, and then hold it over with my non-dominant finger, twist it under so that purple is on top of the yellow, then yarn over with purple and pull through the 2 loops there. Now before I pull it, see how tight that is? We don't want it that tight, so I like to pull it out and make sure it's kind of loose there. Then we can pull our other color tighter and just fold that over on its side, and then finish this round up by using our color A. So we're just going to do a single crochet in the next one to get it started there, and then we can cut our yellow yarn, color B, close, and then we're going to come back to that in the next round. Now the rest of this round, by the way, is going to be 6 single crochets, then an increase, then a single crochet. So we did our first one. Don't forget, you really want this arms to be on the outside, so I'm going to pull my loop out, then go into the next stitch, pull a second loop through, make sure the arm's on the outside like this, and then pull my stitches tighter to keep that arm on the outside, and then do our single crochet. So we got 6 of these to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then an increase into the next 1 and 2, and then a single crochet into the last stitch right here to finish up round 11B. You should have 19 stitches around, by the way, if you want to count your stitches, because now we've added our increase into our piece. Pull our stitch marker up, and we'll continue on to round 12. Now round 12 is mostly just normal stitches. You don't have to make things too complicated. We're just going to do our color changes when we get to the belly here. So we want to do 5 single crochets, then 6 single crochets in color B, then back to color A. We're going to do 5 more single crochets, an increase, a single crochet, and an increase to finish the round up with 21 stitches. All right, let's continue and just get this started. So we want 5 single crochets to start in color A. 1, 2, 3, 4, and here is 5. And we're going to switch back over to our color B. And we're going to do the same thing we did for our last round. So we hold it in place, switch over, pull through with that new color, like that. Then pull purple tighter, hold that over on its side, and just ignore it, and do our 6 single crochets in color B. So there's 1, oopsies, get that purple out of our way. There's 1, oopsies, let's try that again. There we go. 2, 3, let's get more yarn. 4, 5, and then 1 more right here. And we're going to grab our purple, have it float over, switch over to our purple yarn and pull it through. But before I pull tight, we want to create some slack on the inside. Then pull our yellow tighter like that, and then fold the yellow over. And we can do our next single crochet in our color A. And we can cut our yellow yarn, color B, closer. And we'll come back to it in the next round. Okay, let's finish this round up. In our color A, we want to do 5 single crochets. We did our first, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then increase, single crochet, increase to finish up this round. So increase in the first, 1, 2, single crochet in the next, and then increase into the last right here for 21 stitches around 1 and 2, like that. Let's pull our stitch marker up. You should have 21 stitches around and continue on to round 13. Round 13 is pretty easy. It's pretty much the same kind of thing going on. This time we want 5 single crochet in A, 6 single crochet in B, then 7 single crochet in A, 2 increases in a row, and then 1 last single crochet into our last stitch, which is going to bring us up to 23 stitches around. Let's go ahead and get that started. So we want 5 in A, 1, 2, 3, oops, there we go, 4, and 5. Let me grab our yellow yarn. And actually, I need to undo that last one because it's 5 single crochets and then we switch to yellow. So I undid my last stitch there. Let's get my yellow yarn in place and switch back over to color B and pull through those 2 loops like that. Then we're going to do that float thing, let our yarn float off to the side, and we'll do 6 single crochets into our color, using our color B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here's our 6th. Before I finish that stitch up, we grab our color B, our color A rather, switch it over and pull it through like that. Give it a little slack on the inside and pull our secondary color tighter. Let's hold the secondary color over to the side and continue on in our purple. We want to finish this round up by doing 7 single crochets and then 2 increases in a row and then 1 more single crochet to finish this round up. So let's start with our 7 single crochets to get started. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then 2 increases in a row. So right here is our first, 1 and 2, and then another increase right after that right here, 1 and 2, and then 1 more single crochet into our last stitch here to finish up round 13. Let's cut our yarn nice and close. We'll come back to it in just a moment and continue on to round 14B. Okay, now 14 is going to be a little trickier. Actually, this might be the trickiest round in the whole pattern. Basically, first off, we're going to do color changes. We're going to do 4 single crochets, a leg, which this is how we did our leg before. We're going to do our leg differently this time, which is going to be pretty tricky, but really rewarding if you can pull it off. So we're going to do 4 single crochet, a leg, make sure to working around our new color with our leg, and then we're going to do 6 single crochet in our yellow, our color B, and then another leg in our purple, and then 7 more single crochets, 1 increase around the back here, and then 3 single crochets to finish the round up. I will say this is the second to last round, so you're almost done actually. But just take this part real slow. In fact, we're going to take it nice and slow. Let's start by doing 4 single crochets to get to our first leg. And we're going to be doing the advanced leg tutorial here. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so here's the advanced leg tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and do it all, and then I'm going to undo the last part so we can change over to our yellow yarn, because it's just really hard to explain with the yellow in its place, and then I'll come back and do it again with the yellow, just so that you can see the stitches better so nothing's getting in its way. Okay, so for a leg, our advanced leg, we're going to start by yarning over and going into the stitch from the round above. So not this round right here, but the round above right here. We're going to yarn over, go into that stitch, yarn over, pull through 2. Everything's going to be worked into that round above. So yarn over, into the next stitch right here, yarn over again. Make sure that the yellow is out of its way. yarn over again and pull that through like that. Then yarn over and pull through 2, 1 and 2 like that. So that's our first part. For step 2, we want to repeat that one more time. So we're going to do that again. Yarn over into the same stitch right here. Yarn over and pull it through. Then yarn over and pull through 2, 1 and 2 like that. Next, we want to chain 2 and then slip stitch 1 into the first chain that we made without ever removing our crochet hook. That sounds tricky, and it kind of is. We're going to yarn over and do 2 chains. 1 and 2 like that. Then into the first chain right there, I like to work into that back bump. So kind of like twist it around so you can find that back bump right there and get our crochet hook into that back bump. Place it right where it's supposed to be and then use our nail to guide it over the crochet hook like so. Then we want to yarn over and slip stitch by pulling through the next 2 loops. So there's 1 and 2, just one of those loops like that. Okay, and that's going to create a little point at the end. Okay, so that's going to be the end of step 3. Now for step 4, we want to repeat steps 1, 2, and 3 again. So let's repeat step 1 first. Yarn over into the next stitch. Sorry, the same stitch right here. Yarn over, scoop, really try to scoop that through to make sure you get under all of your pieces. Then yarn over again, pull through 2, 1 and 2. And then do it again. Yarn over into the next stitch right here. Yarn over and pull it through. Then through 2 loops. 1 and, oops, 2 like that. Now we want to create another little point here. So with all the loops still on the hook, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2. Skip that first chain, work into that back bump with our crochet hook like this. Just kind of guide it over the crochet hook and then do a slip stitch. Pull through and pull through like that. Okay, so that's going to be the end of step 4. The last thing we want to do is do step 5, which is our last repeat of step 1. So we want to yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over, pull through, then yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. We're going to start there, then we're going to add our yellow under that before we finish pulling through everything. So let's start by yarning over, going into the stitch again, yarn over and pull it under the stitch like this. Now before we pull through 2, place your new color in between the loops on the hook and the end attached to the ball. Then we can yarn over with our old color there, pull through 2 loops only, 1 and 2 like that. And we're going to finish this leg up by yarning over and pulling through all the loops on the hook. But because we want to change to yellow, we need to switch over to our yellow yarn. Try not to let any of this go through like that. And yarn over with our yellow and pull it through all the loops on the hook. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 like that. Okay, now we can pull that leg tighter, pull the pink or the yellow yarn tighter. Okay, and there's our leg. Complicated, right? We're going to do another one over here though. So, you know, we got one more to do. Okay, now after doing that, we want to do 6 single crochets in our yellow yarn to get to our next leg. So we're going to, I'm just going to work around this tail end for our first stitch here. I know we've been letting it float, but it's best to work around it after a leg. So we're going to go into the next stitch right there, do our yellow single crochet. And notice how I'm consistently pulling everything slightly tighter. We'll keep going, pull it tighter, just to keep everything really nice and taut. You can see how it creates this little cute little toes on our bobble stitch. So we want 6 of those single crochets. So we got 1. I'm just gonna, we'll go ahead and pull it to the side and finish the rest of these single crochets. So there's 2, 3, oops, get that purple out of the way, 4, 5, and then our last one right here, 6. Get our yellow yarn and change over to purple like that. Make sure there's a little bit of a gap. Pull our yellow tighter And we're going to work around our yellow yarn for this next stitch, and we're going to do our leg, our next leg. First off, let's go ahead and cut our yellow yarn so it's kind of not in our way as much. And we'll keep it in place though. And we're going to do our next leg. Again, same exact thing. We're going to yarn over, go into the round above. So right down to here, into that stitch, yarn over, pull it under that stitch, going over, yarn over 2 and pull through 2. 1 and 2. So that's step 1. We're going to repeat that again. Yarn over into the same stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, 1 and 2. Now with the loops on the crochet hook, we want to create that little mini picot. So we're going to chain 2, 1 and 2. Skip the first chain and working into the back loop of the second chain from the hook right here. Oop. See, it's going to be kind of tough. Right here, get our crochet hook into position and then kind of slide the crochet hook into that and then slip stitch 1, 1 and 2 for a slip stitch. And that'll create a little point. We're going to repeat that process 1 through 3 again. Here's step 1 repeated into the same stitch. Pull through, yarn over, and pull through 2, 1 and 2. Okay, and notice how I'm consistently, see how it's like really pulling it in? The way I'm doing that is I'm yarning over and I'm going in to like the furthest I can. And then when I yarn over here and pull it through, I'm really scooping it under. And that's really keeping everything together. And I'll yarn over and pull it 2, 1 and 2. And then we're going to make a next point. So we chain 2, 1 and 2, pull tighter, get into that back loop of that second chain from the hook right here. Place our crochet hook in place and then kind of guide it over the crochet hook. And then slip stitch 1, pull through, and then pull through the loop on the hook like that. Okay, last part, we want to repeat step 1 one more time. Yarn over into the same stitch like this. Yarn over and pull it through. Then yarn over and pull through 2, 1 and 2. And then we finish this up by yarning over and pulling through all the loops on the hook by twisting and really scooping through all those stitches. Okay, that's going to be the end of our leg. To finish this round up, we're going to do 7 single crochets and then an increase back here and then 3 single crochets to get to the end of the round. Our first stitch is going to be kind of under that leg. So right here will be our first stitch. Kind of hard to get into, but there we go. And just do a single crochet into that one to get us started. All right, so we want, again, that's 7 single crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 single crochets. Then an increase right here will be 1 and 2, and then 3 more single crochets to get to the end of the round. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Now, we have our last round of our dinosaur. This is going to be the exact same as our beginner T-Rex here. Exactly the same bit. So, this round is going to be 2 single crochets. 1, 2. And then the repeat of 1 invisible decrease, 1 single crochet, 4 times in a row. So 1 invisible decrease, front loop, and then a single crochet. And then 1 single crochet into the next. Make sure you're under both loops of the top of that leg. That. Okay, so 1 invisible decrease, 1 single crochet, 4 times. Second repeat, front loop, and single crochet 1 there, and then 1 single crochet after that invisible decrease. There's our second repeat. Get our yarn. Here's our third repeat, invisible decrease 1. Single crochet 1. Okay, last repeat, invisible decrease 1 using the top of our toes there. And then single crochet 1 in our last stitch right here. Okay, now we cut our yarn nice and long to sew it closed. We'll pull it all the way through. And we're going to sew this closed exactly the same as we sewed our original dinosaur up with. but I'll just go ahead and do it kind of quick. First, we want to stuff it slightly, or mostly, I should say. So we get all that stuffing in and above the eyes, if you can. Like a dece. Like a dece. All right. Above the eyes. Then let's go ahead. It's a little much, maybe. We'll go ahead and stuff this in just like that. And maybe just a little bit more stuffing. Okay. Now let's sew the piece closed. Well, let's pull our stitch marker out too. Just like that. And then we'll thread this end on a needle and we'll sew it all closed again. So we're going to thread this. Okay. To sew closed, we're going to skip 11 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. We're going to skip those 11 into the 12th right here. We're going to go into the top of that 12th stitch. I think that was the 12th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. And then out through the first stitch in the next part right here. So the next stitch right there. And we want to sew it together like that. We pinch it closed. Boom. Just like that. And then we're just going to sew this all the way up and then all the way back. So into the next stitch and into the cross of it. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, and then here's the last one. And then we're going to work back down using the same stitches to create little V's down to the base. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, we're going to finish up by going down and across to that 12th stitch that we started in right there and come straight out of the bottom. Okay, so that's the first part. Then we can stuff the rest of it up. Make sure you get stuffing into the tail as well. And like I said in our original beginner T-Rex, you can stuff it now with some extra nickels to keep it weighed down a little bit. You can also try using like magnets and stuff. Really whatever you want. Now is your chance. This might be, yeah, this is probably enough stuffing right here. I just really don't want to see any of the stuffing out of our piece though. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's great actually. Cool. Okay, let's go ahead and finish sewing this closed. I'm just going to go through the front loops only of all the last stitches around here. 1, 2, 3. Should be 8 of these. 5. 6. Okay, now we want to hold it tight, close up the bottom like that, and then take this, go into, I like to go in to like, see where this line is? Into the side of that line, kind of, like this. It kind of like gets me into a little knot there, and then out anywhere we want on the back, like that, and pull it nice and tight. We can cut it nice and short, like that. Okay, so that's the main part of our advanced dinosaur, but he's looking a little naked. So we have one more thing that I want to do, which is going to be add spikes along the back of our piece here. So we're going to do that with our secondary color. So we'll place this guy to the side and we'll grab our secondary color. Okay, so for our spikes along the back, we want to start by chaining 3 like this. First, create a little slip knot like that. You want a somewhat long end, not too long though, and create a slip knot. Okay. So we're going to start by chaining 3, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to work into the back loops of those chains, just like how we did in the beginning of the advanced pattern. So these back bumps right here. And we're going to do a single crochet 2 together into the next 2 chains. To do that, we're going to go into our first chain right here. Again, don't forget you're working into that back bump like that. Yarn over and pull it through that back bump. Now go into the next back bump right here, which is going to be the last one. Yarn over and pull another loop through. You should have 3 loops on the hook now. We can yarn over now and pull through all 3 loops. 1, 2, and 3 like that. That's going to create a spike. All right, now we're going to repeat the next part 4 more times so that we have 5 spikes total. The next part's going to be chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Skip our first chain and single crochet 2 together using the next 2 chains. And make sure to work that back bump. So there's 1, and then the next one right here. Make sure to use your nail to help guide the hook like that, and then pull, yarn over and pull through all 3 like that. So 1, 2, we want 5 of these chains. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. We skip the first into the back bump of the next right here. Single crochet 2 together. 1 and 2, and pull through all 3. 1, 2, 3, 2 more, 3 and 4. Skip the first, back bump of the second. I think, there we go, 1. And then the next one right here, 2, and then pull through all 3. Okay, 1 more. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Back bump first stitch, back bump second stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through them all. Okay, should have 5 spikes now. You want a pretty long end, actually, maybe about like that long. Cut nice and cleanly, and then we're going to chain 1. So we'll yarn over, pull through, and pull that all the way through like that. Okay, now let's sew this onto the head of our, or onto the back of our dinosaur. You want to sew this along the back so that's parallel like this. So it's perfectly straight along the back, lined up. And this is actually a lot easier to sew on than it looks. First, you want to thread the long end of your tail, or of your spikes, and just come in through the top of our dinosaur. So right here, where those, remember in the first round, right here in the back, last part right there, and you want to skip down 2 rounds. Okay, so if we skip down 1, 2 rounds, it's going to come out right here. Okay, so come out of that stitch. You want to pull it, try to pull it tight enough so this knot gets pulled in, but you don't want to be too crazy with it, just tight enough like that. And then what I like to do is take this tail end on the back here, oops, and we're going to go around the center part right here and then back into the same stitch you just came out of right here. Then we're going to go down 2 more rounds, 1, 2, which will be right there. Okay, so just go down 2 more rounds and then pull it nice and tight to make sure it's in the body. Okay, then I kind of straighten the spikes out, pull it tighter, make sure the spikes are on this side, and it's on this side. Okay, now to make this lined up perfectly, sometimes you're gonna work around the spikes and then into the same stitch, but sometimes to make it kind of straighten out, because look, if we continue doing that, it's gonna continue going off to the side, which we don't really want. We want it to straighten out. So every now and then we're gonna have to redirect by not going through the same stitch, but going around and then into the stitch next to it, over to the side of it. So we're gonna go around that center, into the side of it, and then skip 2, 1, 2 to get down to this next stitch right here, like that. Skip 2 rounds up, I meant. Okay, and pull tight to connect it in. Twist the spikes so that they're back into position. Pull tighter. All right, now we're gonna go around that center into the same stitch this time, and then down another 2 rounds. And we're gonna do the same thing. So see how we're like every other one. So this one we worked into the same stitch, next one we worked into the stitch over. Next one we're gonna work into the same stitch, now we're gonna work into the stitch over again. So we're gonna go through that stitch, pull everything tighter, straighten it all out. Now we're gonna go around that outside and then into the next stitch over right here. And actually this last part, we don't need to work into the next round because this tail end is gonna work into that last part. So instead we're gonna come out through the bottom, somewhere along the bottom, just like this. Yeah, just like this. We're gonna pull it through, make sure that this is going around the right section. Like that, pull it nice and tight. Kind of straighten that line out, tighten it. Okay, we're gonna pull that needle off and we're gonna thread this last tail end of this other side of the spike. Like that. Now we wanna go 2 rounds up from there. I actually like to go 3 rounds up for this last part. So 1, 2, 3 like that. Then in and out through the last stitch. The only reason I like to do 3 is because it kind of like straightens it out a little bit better. You can do 2 though if you want. That totally works too. See how it kind of pulls it in, pulls it in. Okay. You really want to make sure that knot is pulled in though, if we can. There we go. It is still kind of like angling over, so let's go ahead and angle the tail a little bit like this to make the tail kind of straighten out and keep everything still lining up correct. Okay, and then we'll pull tighter, and we're just gonna double knot, and then we can fix the spikes so that they are cleaner. So double knot here, make sure it's tight. 1, try not to break your yarn though. If you're using our club crochet yarn, it shouldn't break, but if you're using other yarn, you could break it if you pull too tightly, so just be careful about that. All right, cut the yarn, hide this knot on the inside there, and then we can just tweak these spikes slightly to straighten them out. Once you have them straightened, it usually stays in place like that. I always like to point the spikes a little bit too. But there we go. There's our much more difficult but crazy adorable advanced T-Rex. Wow, that's cute. And we'll see them right next to each other. So you can see how adding that lip, adding the belly, doing the feet different, it does make it way more difficult to make, but it's just so cool looking. Okay. Oh, I love these guys. Thank you so much for crocheting this pattern along with me. I hope you enjoyed making it as much as I enjoyed designing it, and I really enjoyed designing this pattern. This is probably one of my proudest designs yet. It's just so cool. Now, if you did like this video, make sure to like it down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell icon so you don't miss when we come out with new live crochet alongs, and share this pattern with someone else that you like, that you think might enjoy this pattern as well. By spreading the word, you help spread the word of this channel, and it just means a lot. So yeah, if you like this, also check out our other dinosaur patterns. You can find them all at clubcrochet.com/dinosaur. I think a great one to move on to after this T-Rex is this little raptor. It uses a lot of the similar techniques, but makes it even tinier, and it's really cool. I'm also working on a more beginner-friendly version of this to come out this season as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. You can also check out my board game at lavarungame.com. It's coming out very soon, and you can actually use these as pieces for the game. Yeah, okay. Well, thanks again for watching. Pasta la pizza, happy hooking, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.